Welcome to Season 3 of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast about living, thriving, and laughing through the ups and downs of neurodiversity. We explore the real stories, the real struggles, and the real strengths that come with thinking differently.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of This Is How My Brain Works, Season 3. My name is Sarah Hines, and I'm joined with the whole cast of favorites, Krista, Gano, Jason, Rudy, Rudofsky, and Michael Collins. Today, for those just listening, when I say people's names, they all do very fun things. So this is your invitation to go check us out on YouTube, where you can watch us in the flesh. Today, our topic is life coming at you sideways. In our pre-chat, we all are kind of experiencing that. In fact, Michael wasn't even in here moments ago because his life was sideways for a moment. And we stopped and restarted because that's what you do. You stop and then you pick yourself back up and you start again. So for me, what prompted this topic today is I woke up this morning and discovered that my 12-year-old mini poodle had been sick in the night, and then she continued to be sick kind of all morning with shivering and her tail between her legs. And I checked her out, and it seemed like she maybe had some TMI blockage. So I took her to the sink and I tried to unblock her, and a little bit of stuff happened, but not very much. And then Michael's face, I should stop the TMI probably. But at this point, I discerned in her nether regions that there was a very large lump. And I thought, maybe that's a big blockage. Dogs love to eat socks and stuff. So I did a bit of computer work and then took her straight to the vet, where we discovered that she has developed a very large growth. It was not there a month ago because she had been hurt about a month ago and had x-rays then. And anyway, today may be her last earthly day, and she may be becoming my little angel. And I then had to let my kids know, who are off to college, and that's, life really does come at you sideways and you don't expect it. I went to bed last night thinking it wasn't going to be a normal Friday. I was going to take her and her sibling dogs to the dog park, and that is not what happened. So not to be too heavy, Penny Poodleton Door did have one of the best lives. She ran with the big dogs and she splashed in the cricks. But yeah, we all get these little beings that we get to take care of, and we don't know how long it's going to be. And when it stops, it can be hard. So
and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we all sort of started talking about, because we try to talk about what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to do? And I've had a couple of weeks really where there's just been a lot coming at me, and whether it be some tough decisions that have to be made with care around parents, and the stepping away from a job that has been incredibly at times in the past rewarding, but also recently incredibly toxic. And sort of what that last couple of weeks of that looks like, and holding my integrity, but really just feeling gross every single time. I even get an email with a certain name on it or whatever. And then on top of that, I've got a kid's birthday today, which is a huge celebration. I had a really positive thing happen with another part of my business, but it's just been, I've been crying, sort of seeping for all week. And that doesn't even count, of course, the energy of our country right now and what's happening, which we don't have to get into politics. But I do think that as neurodivergent people, we are sensitive. And so I think the topic is really about what do we do when life is a speeding bullet train coming at your face? And you're not processing it the way that maybe somebody, a neurotypical would.
Yeah, you're reminding me that we said that we would talk about how do we handle that, which is basically what you just said. And to kind of dovetail, in the moment at the vet learning all this stuff, I handled it pretty good. You know, I was able to hear it and not break down and kind of carry the emotional load. I think that's a pretty common response actually for people who have ADHD, to be really good in a crisis, really able to be there, be present, hold the space for people who are struggling. Not everybody, Jason. So, Jason now. So, you know, and as I just did this intro, I could feel some of the feelings well up as I talked to one of my two kids who immediately burst at the seams, which it's her favorite dog of our pets. Um, I felt some feelings come up then, but held it together for her. And so, how do you handle it? Jason, I see you have thoughts, feelings.
I'm a very emotional person, and I'm not good when a crisis hits without notice. My brain shuts down, and I'm trying to figure it out why that happens. It could be as small as, I don't know, I'm making cookies and I don't have sugar. And I'm, you know, and I've got other things going on. It's just my brain is looking for a plan, someone to give me a plan, someone, and my brain just can't do it on the spot. I remember, speaking of pets, we were up in the mountains. We had two dogs. The dogs went out early, heard some horrible noises. We whistled. One dog came back, not the other dog. The other dog came back, obviously had been ripped apart by something or many things, and I freaked out. I did not know. My brain could not figure out what to do. Luckily, Lisa was there, and she's like, just let's take him down to the vet. Right? Let's go right now. Take him to the vet. She grabbed the dog, and I didn't even know how to handle the dog. She found a sleeping bag, wrapped the dog up, put it in the car, went down. Dog's still with us. But it's
Jason,
one
I feel
moment.
like you could have led with that part because I was ready for the water
no,
part.
well, I have a question because we've interviewed
And
Lisa.
I freak.
We've
My head shuts down.
But we've interviewed Lisa, and we know that Lisa also sees that she's somewhere in that spectrum, and my husband is. And I here's the thing that I find interesting though, and I actually have one of my co-collaborators, my creative co-collaborators I work with a ton. We just talked about it yesterday. And because I had a freak out about something that was happening with one of our projects, not like a big freak out, but I mean, listen, I am just managing a lot, and there's some overwhelm. And he just like went in there and just took care of it. And we sort of had an opposite situation that happened like a couple weeks ago. And I just said, I am so grateful. And my husband and I are like that I feel like we're like that a lot. Like, it's not that one of us is the freaker outer or the one who can't handle the stuff. It's almost like when one is, the other one counterbalances. And so I'm sure that if we talked to Lisa, she would have times that she felt like she was overwhelmed and you were perhaps the counterbalance. But I find it interesting that we sort of, there's a symbiotic thing that happens sometimes when you've got two neurodiverse folks who are trying to manage a sitch together.
Yes, you're exactly right. The difference is I'm always freaking out, and because her brain is she's very quick, and she usually has the right answer or can jump in pretty quickly. I need time to think. That's also why I have trouble when people ask me a question out of the blue. My brain is thinking about, okay, what's the right answer? How should I answer this? What do I say? You know, it's just too much going on.
What kind of world,
Immediately, I get
what kind of
flooded.
world do we have that we don't, like I'm seeing my husband's the same way, Rudy, you know that. But I'm seeing him lately more often say, I'm so sorry, or I'm not even, I'm so sorry. I'm going to need a moment to think about that, or I'm going to need a moment to
Yes,
process.
I started doing that.
Because it's just like, because I will have to say that I think even the fast thinkers in this world are finding this world to be to the speed at which things are coming is speedy even for the fast thinkers. So I think the best thing we all can do is to take, I mean, like I've made it a rule in my, like this last couple of weeks with the toxicity I've been dealing with, I've just made it a rule. I never respond to an email till the next day. Now I can write it that night and get all huffy puffy and I'll do the thing, but I will not. I don't care. I don't care if they're on an emergency deadline, they are not getting a response from me until the next day. Cause I have to take a beat. And I didn't used to gate myself that way. Michael, you've been so quiet.
Well, this is fascinating. It's really, I mean,
It's like, I love
You need to
watching you
take-
people.
Do you need to take a beat, Michael? Because we are practicing and
you guys are
modeling.
doing a great job. Continue, please. No, so what's occurring to me is because, Jason and I both identify or have been formally diagnosed with ADHD, and that's kind of our thing. Krista and Sarah, you have gone into the ADHD, the autism and ADHD space, and sometimes we're kind of aligned on how we would react to something or internalize or personalize or think about something. And sometimes it's much different. What's interesting to hear though is like Jason saying, well, I don't respond well in these types of things, in like crisis situations, but I have, in my experience, I am able to. I go into this executive functioning space. I guess whatever needs to go to my frontal cortex happens, and so we had a situation. I'll keep maybe a pet themed thing. We were at my daughter's soccer game, and we had our dog, our little mini golden doodle Yogi, with us, and there was another dog there, and everything was fine for most of the game. But then after the game, when everybody was leaving, Margot's little teammate had their dog, and it was too much for her to handle, really. And Yogi went up, and they kind of did a little bit of sniffing around, and then it got chippy. Like there was some aggression going on, some barking going on, and my wife had Yogi, and she went into a freeze state. She wasn't sure what to do. I looked over, I saw the thing, I walked over, I grabbed Yogi by his harness, picked him up, walked away with him, removed him from the situation. It was like, this is happening, here's what I need to do, here's what I'm doing, here's what I did. It's like, that was kind of my process. And my wife came over and was like very shaken by the whole experience. And I think she was kind of like, felt bad that she wasn't able to do something in the moment, whereas I came in and did something in the moment. And that was, and she goes, and she was just shaken up. So, I gave Ginger a hug, and it was like, it's okay. That was just a little instance with the dogs. And she's like, you're right. And then so she was able to kind of calm down. We'll cut to my son's soccer game. He's in middle school, and they're playing the game, and they're the opposition, the other team. There's like these three dads, and they are very vocal, and they're very much like,
This is why we stopped playing soccer. Like the parents were like literally my kid was like, I don't want to do it anymore. The parents are crazy.
They're the worst. And so this is where I can't, this is more of like where I'll get emotionally triggered or emotionally reactive. Cause I just felt this thing coming up. I'm like, here it comes. Here it comes. And these three dads are like, oh, call it both ways, ref, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what's this guy doing over here? Just kind of, I mean, literally teasing the people on my son's team. Like it was brutal. And I was like, God, a lot of whining going on over there. So that was my first like shot into the thing, right? Instead of just passively hanging out, I'm like, I'm engaging because now I'm triggered. And it got a little back and forth. And this one of the dads came up to me, and he was like, 6'3", and he's like, look at you running your mouth. And I'm like, oh my God, is this it got so intense. And even the other team were disappointed with their dads. They're like, Dad, come on. And it's like these kids are supposed to be having this experience, and these dads are and their fans got a yellow card by the ref, by the way. It was obnoxious.
I was gonna say I
So
would have called the ref and been like Karen out on them. I'd be like, I'm a
well,
Karen.
I had to like, okay, just through experience and through kind of understanding like, okay, I'm emotionally triggered right now, and this has been a pattern for me as far as mouthing off, not dealing well with authority, all that kind of stuff. I physically removed myself and walked to the other side of the field and sat with some other people from my son's team, and I'm like, I'm removing myself from the situation. I'm not going to change these guys' minds. But it's still like the next day I woke up and I hadn't metabolized the whole thing. And so just kind of examples of like, and I think this is like
And then constantly
neurodiversity.
thinking of all the things you could have said or should have
Yeah.
Well, I think
said,
that's
you
I
know.
think that's the challenge. And I think for me that has been the challenge of this toxic, work situation that you guys know have been going through is the amount of time that it emotionally takes up space outside of that actual work scenario. I mean, like for those of you who are listening, I have various things I do. So I don't have an one boss, one job, one thing. I'm a consultant. I coach. I do all kinds of different things. And so, but because I can choose the people I work with for the most part, I rarely get in a situation that I am in a toxic space that I don't and that I can't technically get out of. Right. And I could have gotten out of this one too, but I mean, need the money, but the second thing about it is that I think because I'm pretty good at figuring out who to work with from the start, that often it surprises me when I end up in the hole. And so I work extra hard and I blame myself and I try to figure it out really, really hard. And, um, and I'm really trying to not do that with people, with coaching clients, with like, I'm really trying to discern earlier on what is just too much, what's too much input, or what's too much, or what's triggering me, or whatever it is, and giving myself some grace around making some decisions to not have to be in those situations. Yes, Sarah.
This is making me think of an analogy, and I know not everybody loves analogies, so I'll start with the non-analogy, which is when we're in that situation, something hits us sideways. Do you need to sneeze, Rudy?
I'm about to, but I can.
No, 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 do
Well,
it.
it's gone now. Thank you so much.
I could see it on your face.
I
That's
was
so
like,
cute. He needs to sneeze. He's another TMI. His nose has been acting up today suddenly. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so what I was getting at is
The allergies.
often when we're hit sideways with this input, if we don't process and resolve it, it goes into the body, keeps the score kind of idea. It gets stored. So Michael, to your point, of course the next day, because you didn't actually get a resolution that really hit all the ways that you were triggered, maybe, you had to keep processing it the next day. The example I would give is I think I might have told this story the day that my youngest kid nearly drowned, and I flew like Superwoman jumping into the pool to rescue her. And it was funny because I'm screaming, the baby, as I'm running and then doing a perfect, like, no splash dive. And my friend said I looked like Superman when she turned and looked at me. After it was all over, I held up my hand expecting that adrenaline shakies, that you have. And my hand was
Mhm.
rock solid straight. And I later talked to my mom, who's was a lab manager, so she understands a lot of this stuff. She said, because you used up your entire store of adrenaline. You had a scary thing happen, the adrenaline dumped into your system, and you cleared a bush from standing position that was hip high, and then in flip flops. Like, I'm not an athletic girl. That was like, whoa, could have been a hurdle jumper. And then dove in with no splash and rescued my baby because I did all of that physically so fast. I did not have any jitters after. Similarly, with this toxic stuff, when we're hit by this toxic stuff, if we don't set our boundary, so it sounds like you started to set the boundary, but you potentially, and I wasn't there and I'm not trying to cast aspersions, Michael, you maybe overreacted and went into like panic reaction instead of boundary setting, which is this is a kid's soccer game. You're talking to them like your children, and that's not the behavior we model. And instead, it was the ref and their own children who hip checked them, so to speak. So you were cut off in your own ability to hip check these people who are reacting badly. And so then you're still in it. You still have the adrenaline coursing, to use the analogy, instead of having processed that whole thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
And what I've noticed for me is when I set these boundaries, when I do it from for lack of a better term, a really Christian or fully engaged, my wise self way, I'm often not holding on to it later. And that's not to say that we can always do that.
Yeah. Krista, oops.
Life's hitting Krista sideways. She might need to
Sorry,
take
my husband's talking to me in the middle of the podcast. Yes, please go get our child. Thank
No,
you.
it's perfectly okay. What's happening sideways? Deal with it. Let's model it. Go, Krista, go.
But I was just like, as you were talking though, I do think that there are a lot of us who, because we're master maskers, right? I mean, we really are. So we mask the fuck out of everything or any situation that comes up or whatever, even in that, even when you feel it bubble up and come out, sort of, I think that is a form of, of some sort of masking. But I do think that things hit us much later, when you sort of can be alone and process. And I love how Michael calls it metabolize it. And that's but that's also when that rumination can start and some of that spinning and the earworms and all of that stuff that's going on. But it's also one of the reasons why I'm super reluctant ever to really judge someone. We're in the society now that judges everything, to judge someone else's reaction to something. Whether it be happy, sad, grief, joy, like whatever it is, I'm somewhat reluctant to be like, they're not happy enough. Can't you
didn't do it the way
tell?
I wanted them to.
No, I think, Krista,
Right,
I think
because
this is
we don't
interesting.
really know, because we don't. Yeah, I just say I'm there's a lot of people who jump in and judge everybody for our reactions, but I know that often my most honest reactions do not happen in that moment in front of people, especially people I may not know.
What were you going to say, Michael?
Well, I think so. When we're talking about a neurodiverse response, that isn't like exclusive to someone with neurodiversity. This
No
is like
way.
this is a human response that presents differently or more intensely or more subtly in a
Absolutely.
neurodiverse brain. So like I think like Jason and I might have we're both ADHD, but we might respond differently in different situations. Still, that's why each one of these things it's its own individual fingerprint. It's like because you have the neurodiversity, but you also have your family of origin and your personality type, and then you have then there's what types of pressure, what types of triggers, and why. What type of coping mechanism might you move into? Whether it's a sound thing, like what are the circumstances? So that's where this gets kind of muddy, I think. And to your point, Krista, as far as like a generalized, when you generalize, that's kind of where we get in trouble, I think. It's hard not to generalize because look at even from like a therapeutic standpoint, yeah, treat the patient, treat the individual, but it's like, okay, how do we treat this? How are we treating ADHD? How are we treating, and then that's where it gets kind of murky, you know? And I think just whether you have neurodiversity or not, some of the things that I've heard, like giving yourself grace is huge. Being able to learn how to pause before reacting is super hard, but huge. Recognizing what might get you into a reactive state, just that self-awareness piece, and that just takes a long time. It's taken me a long time to really kind of learn about. But these things can be simple. We talk a lot about hacks sometimes. We'll just do this, but it really can be complex. And so like we're having all these human responses, you know, but it's all individual too.
I would not have reacted like you did, Mike, with those three guys, the three fathers.
Do tell.
I wouldn't. I mean, you remember there was a show a while back where like, how would you respond? It was like, I don't know,
Oh
guy falls
yeah, I hate
falls
that
into like a
show.
subway, or someo's
They're
being,
like
robbed
kidnapping
on
a
the,
kid and seeing if someone will stop them.
and I'm like, I don't know how I would react, but I don't know how I would react in Michael's situation. I know I've heard several stories from Michael where eventually he's going to say something. He's going to say something. I know that. I Even in that situation right now, I'm thinking how, like, there's so much anxiety when that happens, and I'm of a smaller stature, and I've never wanted conflict because I know for the most part a 6 foot dude or taller, um, they also react differently. They have a stronger sense. That's my interpretation, and they would walk right over to Michael and say something right to his face, like, "You want to go? You want to go right now, huh?" And I would never want to put myself in that situation. Michael's a fighter. I mean,
I
he,
don't like conflict or aggression either, but I do that came from a hyper a justice hyper vigilance, where it's just like these guys are not being cool or fair, and I'm going to fight back. And
but here's my
even
question.
even at the putting myself at risk.
As that was going on, were you thinking of what you were going to say? Like, should I call them whiners, or should I say, "Hey, can we knock it off?" Or, I mean, was
I
any
was
of the sort of what you were going to verbalize, did it just well up and that came out, or did it well up and you're like, I've got to say something? What's like
No,
a
I can feel it.
cocky,
I can
sarcastic
feel it.
way?
It starts in the belly and it's a little and then you can start and then it settles right here in the chest for a
And then it
second.
comes
And
But
right
then
it
out
won't
of my
come
mouth
out.
in
and then
It
my
big
just circles
brain
my head.
and then my brain says you have about 2.3 seconds
Not
to
even,
possibly
girl.
stop this. No, and that's new. Like my brain going like, I feel it. Something's about to happen. Like that's a new thing that has started to happen. But I also think that the real challenge that we're in right now is that this world is on fire. And when we
Yeah.
grew up, having those moments where you said stuff was in some ways perceived, real or not, as being safer. And I think that's what's scary about right now is that you can say something that as a Gen Xer, we're like fucking like get over yourself, and yet somebody could take offense to it in a way that is dangerous. And I think about that type of stuff a lot nowadays.
Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this is my the way I'm kind of interpreting the vibration and the way that people are interacting with each other. The discourse is not really there. It is there is no there is not nearly as much like of a courtesy or a
Oh, everyone's fuse is
it
short.
it's a very short fuse. It's
Mm.
people will just like and it's yeah, it's I think as Krista was saying earlier, it's like, just percolating. There's that just kind of, and I just feel like I feel that as I'm driving around. I feel that, in
Oh,
these types of interactions, and it just
And that,
feels like things are at this
And at some point, you
fever
also
pitch.
feel like you've got to save your voice for the stuff that truly matters because,
So that's
another
that.
way to put it that I want to really plug this is that comment you had earlier, Michael, about showing grace for ourselves and not know and people's reactions being different than yours might be. Dovetailing those, we have to give grace to each other too. Like those
100%.
dads that were whatever it was that was triggering them. And I'm not faulting how you reacted at all. That's exactly probably how I would have. But there's that when we're taking those beats, it probably helps us if we take a beat and think, what are they going through too? And that does not excuse the
Right.
behavior. That does not mean that we don't institute a boundary. That does not mean that they're allowed to abuse other people because they're going through something. But it means how we give them the feedback about that might be tempered a little, might be a little more gentle.
And though, Sarah, is that I also have to say that, and hopefully this will continue to change, that there are, as you know, I've been spouting on my little soapbox for now the third season that we're doing this. There are way more people are way more neurodivergent than they think. Like I think there's way more neurodivergence than is talked about, is recognized, is treated. Like I just think that if you ask me, I think neurotypical might be on the end of being like less like maybe not so typical. Like I don't know. Like I just feel there's a lot of undiagnosed and unrecognized neurodivergence. And so I think a lot of us are running around without tools and without awareness. And that's one of the reasons why I get so passionate about bosses and leaders understanding this probably about themselves and others in the workspaces and whatever, because I can tell that, you know, when it's like the 80s and we're all running around our, you know, sunglasses at night and like having fun.
And OP shorts.
That's right. It's you know, you can be neurodivergent, nobody notices, but now we are really overwhelmed in many areas, and we have to be able to look at one another and support each other through with some awareness.
I think we need to bring back candy necklaces and candy bracelets because I mean, I would just be
The whole time.
Michael, I
maybe
do
put
have
vitamins in there, like neurodivergent vitamins.
Do you know?
Business plan, y'all. Hey, girl.
No, all good candies, and those
hot gummies. Just
there was those big lips, those red lips you could chew.
Oh.
It was like
The
it
wax,
wasn't
wax
gum.
lips.
That
Wax
was
lips,
so weird,
wax lips.
Jason.
Not quite gum, but you could chew it. If you chewed it long enough, it was a beautiful.
Well, the wax
My
lips, and didn't
favorite
they
was
have
the
like
fake
some
cigarettes, the candy
juice or
cigarettes.
something in them?
Oh, candy cigarettes. Great.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
But
the juice?
here's my question for Michael. Michael, because I'm just intrigued by this. Could you feel other people around you like these guys are ridiculous?
Yeah. My
Right.
dad even said something.
And so
He's
like,
"Oh, this
were you
guy's a
thinking to
real
yourself
ass,"
like
and he
someone's
left.
got to do something. Someone's got to say something. Do you know what I mean? Like this can't be allowed any longer. It's one, my child's out there, but it's everyone else's child, and they're only what, 10?
11 years old, yeah.
11. Gus is
Middle
11.
school, middle school.
So and so was there a point like someone's got to say something? Was that part of that sort of welling up like someone's got to say something, someone's got to say something?
It's
Yeah,
good.
We're
I
a
mean,
bunch of whiners.
Yeah. Yeah. It did bubble up to that point where it was just like kind of it was like the tea kettle where it was just like
I have a question. Did you actually, before you say anything, compose it in your head?
Right.
That was
That was
really
my-
interesting.
No.
I was aware that these guys were bothering me. I was consciously saying, you know, let's keep it real, let's keep it calm, whatever. And then it just kept on. And then there was just two guys, and then there was three dads, and then it just kind of hit that inflection point.
But here's the challenge, I think, with
I respect it, by the way, Michael. I mean, to me is,
Well,
I love that. Someone had to do something.
100%. Here's the challenge that I find with my sense of justice, because I'm just going through it.
Justice.
Is that people will see me as being emotional about something. There's an autistic young woman. She used to be, she's blonde. She used to be on the TV show on Netflix where they find love.
Love on the Spectrum.
Yes, she has this great T-shirt that
She's
says,
great, yeah.
"Do not hear what I didn't say." And so what I
Whoa.
find in this sense of justice space is that when I am seen, where my frustration has been lying often, is that people do not delineate things the same way I do. Like they'll just go, she's just gotten upset. And it's like, no, I didn't just get upset. You did something particular that was unkind and not cool. And I am not upset that the thing happened. I'm in agreement. I'm upset in how you chose to do something. Like, for example, there was an announcement made about me on a stage and no warning was given. And that was an email. Could have been an email. And instead, I was in what I consider intentionally blindsided. And
let's
then
be
when
clear,
I got,
that announcement was not, it was misrepresenting or flat out lying about what
correct.
you had said. So it's more than just it was an announcement
Right,
that you
but
weren't expecting.
right. So
No.
so my thing is though, is like then they get to put me in this box of like, she's just upset. No, I'm not just upset. I'm not just an upset person. There is a thing that happened here that is very specific that caused the upset. And so, but it's just so easy in these spaces of overwhelm or meltdown that I can be, I consider myself actually a fairly level-headed human and, whatever. But in the times where I get upset, that sense of justice, man, is usually the thing. And I'm having to do a lot of self-talk around like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Right here to be spending the energy, the emotional space, all of it to clarify something that probably no one gives a shit about except for me. And that's where a lot of my work is right now.
Right. Same thing. I mean, I told you the
Right.
story about my neighbor,
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
and
Give a refresh so that people who
well,
haven't.
I have a
I'm going to
neighbor
pause
who
for
I
one
have,
second and just let y'all know that this has been a fairly long episode. We've gone way over time, and I love you guys. I'm going to have to get out of here in less than 15 minutes, though. So
this will take 14 minutes, so
go.
don't even worry
Perfect.
about it. Basically, I have a neighbor who I haven't talked with for years, and I've been really cordial, and I've done everything. I mean, everything's been just fine, and out of the blue, I got a text message, saying a bunch of stuff that wasn't true, and it kept going on and on and on, and
Let's wait, just to clarify. This is the neighbor who got a complaint lodged by an anonymous neighbor, so the city came out to investigate. She has assumed that
awesome,
anonymous
yes.
complaint was by Jason and family. It was not by Jason and family, and he has
So
tried
good,
to clear
Sarah.
that
You're
up,
so good.
and she is not taking that as true. Go on.
Thank you so much. I could not have done that.
That was
That's a nice
It was less than
summarization.
14 seconds.
But that being said, within the conversation, as it was, I made a mistake because I got really emotional and I wanted a little bit of vengeance because they were saying things that were
At very
so
least an
untrue.
apology. Don't we at some point when someone to take like we are so,
Accountability.
yeah, we are so good at like keeping our side of the street clean often and being the first as neurodivergent people to be like, oh my God, it's me. I'm so sorry. It's probably me. I was the probably the one. It's like it just would be nice for someone to take some accountability for their
Exactly.
piece.
But those situations where, I mean, I've done some things where I've tried to throw a blanket over it and then you have to explain afterwards and it's not all on the up and up. Okay. But when I know that I have done nothing wrong and they keep on and on accusing me of X, Y, and Z, the emotion gets to a point where
You break.
I break and I say things that then just fuel the fire. And it's at that moment where I go back and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that, but I won't come to a point where like I apologize for anything because I did absolutely nothing wrong. And when they're refusing to believe you, and this is not only my neighbor, but in other situations where I'm like, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I, the blame, which sometimes I have hard time accepting, like that was on me, and I've gotten a lot better. But when I know that I'm not to blame, but they're refusing to believe me, I feel stuck and have this inability to vindicate myself. Like nothing I say. So the only thing I can do is, the only thing I can do is send them an email or a text that was probably not the best thing.
A little biting.
Yeah.
The hardest thing that I'm learning in this season is when to find a way to be complete with something and walk away knowing that I will not ever have that piece of closure where somebody apologizes to me. And I think that's the thing right now that I will, and it's so, it was someone, said to me, sometimes you're the beginning of the lesson. You don't always have to be the end.
Ooh, I like that. Also, casting pearls before swine keeps
That's
popping into my
good.
head as you say this.
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
like,
yeah.
it's
Swine. I like
a,
the word swine.
it's a good word.
Well, I think that's a great point. I mean, it's how are you able to kind of, I mean, I've heard in therapy before radical acceptance, and it's just like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think it's succumbing. I don't think it's like, well, okay, I guess I'm just gonna be a punching bag or whatever. But to Krista's point, it's like, what is your expectation? Or is like, do you think that that person is going to change? And are you the one that's going to change them? You are in control of how you're going to
And
move
honestly,
forward.
if they could communicate well and say they're sorry and come and have a conversation and do those things, you probably wouldn't be overwhelmed and upset and sending text messages to your neighbor to say, like, if it was, if it, you know what I mean? Like, if they were,
If there was a path to repair, you wouldn't be blowing up.
right,
What I've had
right,
to do
you
is
would have already gotten
understand
there.
that she is not exactly of right mind. I know
Sure,
some
yeah,
things, and she's just not. So I've been able to say, look, it's her, not me.
yeah.
It's nothing. I know I've got to believe that there's nothing I've done, and she's just using me as a punching bag. Okay,
A
she
vehicle for
needs
her.
someone to use as a punching bag, and that's fine. Um, and I realized that after I sent the one bad text that I shouldn't have sent. It wasn't foul language or anything. It was
But I also,
Denver's.
but I would also say, as someone who is perceived in the world as being incredibly direct, that being direct is not cruel. Clear is kind, kind is clear. Thank you, Brene Brown. And
No, yes, I agree with that.
yeah, it's like so, and I'm not saying because I didn't see the text, I'm not saying that you didn't have a little bit of snark in there with it, but I also think that when we are finally direct, that people are like, oh, they're so mean. It's like I really wasn't mean, and that's where that wonderful quote from the autistic girl of like, do not hear what I didn't say. I was just direct. If you've put something on it, go handle that on your own. But I was just direct and said something
Let
clear.
them, let them,
Let them.
let them,
Mel Robbins, another wonderful. We got to give
let
credit to
them.
the
I mean,
lady.
it's
And now
it's
we'd have to
it's
wrap it up.
not, and I always take the brunt of it. I feel like it's me, 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 and it's taken me a bit of time, and only with this group have I realized a lot of different things on how to take a moment, how to breathe before saying anything. But I keep thinking about let them because it's not anything I did. It's just that person. It's who they are. Let them. And I've got to just believe that I am innocent. There were quotes there for those listening. I feel innocent and believing I'm innocent and being able to just say it's their problem.
Yeah.
It's whatever they're going through, whatever's happening with them. It is not you.
And
And
that's
it
often the
takes
truth.
it takes my wife to remind me of that a lot of times
All
So,
right.
because
dear listener,
I take so much personally, that it affects me emotionally.
so dear listener, as you've listened to us talk about life hitting us sideways, how do you handle it? If you have great hacks that we haven't mentioned, or if you need us to clarify some of this, feel free to drop us a note in the notes to this episode, or if you can find us online, that's another way to get in touch with us. And know that when life hits you sideways, you're going to be okay. Take a minute, breathe, and we can all get there together. Thanks for listening. This has been Sarah Hines with This Is How My Brain Works, and we hope you enjoyed this, and we hope to see you next week. Bye.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. This podcast is the creative work of This Is How My Brain Works. It is not authorized for use in training, development, or refinement of artificial intelligence or machine learning systems. Any attempt to copy, analyze, or repurpose this audio for AI training is explicitly prohibited.